Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Faster my good evening, it's 5:30. This is Update for Monday, 2nd of October 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news on the island, background to that news and sport and business and Sea Watch and travel updates, and the newsmakers in person this evening. So which union signed an agreement with the steam packet? The sex education curriculum will be adapted for Manx children. Jamie Barrow's mother thanks the Manx community. Horse tram funds were spent elsewhere. And a morale-boosting win for the Ravens at the weekend.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update news headlines. Faster my Tessa Hawley.
Faster my. The steam packet has disputed a trade union's claims that it hasn't accepted changes to its members' terms and conditions. Last week, the company claimed 70% of seagoing staff had signed new contracts after negotiations under the collective bargaining agreement. However, the RMT has today told Manx Radio it hasn't done so, adding it's disappointing that the employer is trying to drag RMT into a pre-existing dispute it has with the Nautilus Union. Ramsey Lifeboat has confirmed it was a fishing vessel which discovered the body of missing man Jamie Barrow. Volunteer crew launched on Saturday to recover him from the sea off the northeast coast. The Northern RNLI says it wishes to offer its sincere condolences to Jamie's family at this difficult time. Capacity issues are being blamed after a number of cardiology appointments were cancelled. Manx Care says it's in the process of recruiting an additional cardiology consultant. Looking now at the international news, and the Mayor of Greater Manchester says reports the government is scrapping the northern leg of HS2 are profoundly depressing. But Number 10 still insists no final decision has been made about whether the high-speed rail link is completed. Former US President Donald Trump has described a civil fraud trial against him and his company as a scam and a sham. He's facing claims in a New York court that he and his company lied about his wealth in financial statements. And former Manchester City player and chairman Francis Lee has died at the age of 79 following a battle with cancer. He played for the club between 1967 and 1974. Those are your headlines. News in full at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goromaya, thank you, Tessa. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, there's a strong wind warning in operation for the North Irish Sea. State of sea slight, becoming moderate later. And tonight, mostly dry in a light to moderate southwest wind. It's going to be dry after dark, down to 12 degrees. And for Jamur, dry and bright tomorrow with intermittent sunshine, a fresh west-southwesterly daylight, maximum 16 degrees. A dry night, lowest temperature 12. And for Wednesday, Jacrane, dry with patchy cloud in a fresh to strong southwesterly, up to 17 degrees, and patchy rain by the end of the day. Sunset this evening at 7 minutes before 7. Low waters at 24 minutes past 8. High tide 25 past 2 a.m. Sunrise at 23 minutes past 7. And low tide tomorrow morning is at 5 to 9.
Visit the Manx Glass and Glazing website and see a range of products from windows to doors, mirrors to splashbacks. manxglass.com.
One of the two unions which has been in talks with the steam packet about a change in practices on board the Manxman ferry told Manx Radio it hasn't reached an agreement, but the packet says yes they have, so they say they have a signed agreement with the RMT. The story from John Moss.
The steam packet are currently in negotiations with the union Nautilus about terms and conditions mainly to do with the practice of crews where necessary sleeping on board the new Manxman ferry, which has been equipped with the facilities to take them, cabins, a lounge lounge area, gym, cinema for the crews. The union representing 70% of seagoing staff are the RMT, the Rail, Maritime and Transport Union. In a statement, the steam packet said approximately 70% of the company's seagoing staff, represented by another union that didn't name them, in negotiations under the collective bargaining agreement, have agreed to a change in their terms and conditions and have signed new contracts. The name of the union, as I say, wasn't mentioned, but to make sure we knew who the union was for certain, we got in touch with the RMT press office. And we got a reply from John Millington, their press officer. It read, an RMT spokesman says RMT has not accepted changes in terms and conditions as indicated by a steam packet press release, and it is disappointing that the employer is trying to drag RMT into a pre-existing dispute it has with another union. We are opposed to any attempt by any employer to engage in fire and rehire and encourage proper negotiated settlements to all disputes between employers and unions. End of the statement. When I spoke with the packet managing director, Brian Thompson, I mentioned this, and I can say he seemed surprised when I told him what the union had told us.
Well, that's contrary to the letter that we've received from the RMT, so I've got no idea where that's came.
So you say they have accepted it and you have that in writing?
So the RMT contract has been signed for the new terms and conditions.
The mother of a man whose body was found in the sea at the weekend has thanked the Manx community for standing together, saying the support has been overwhelming. Police say they believe Jamie Barrow has now been found following a 2-week search. Here's Tessa Hawley.
The Isle of Man Constabulary said it strongly believed the body located in Ramsey shortly before midday on Saturday was that of the missing 39-year-old. At that stage, it hadn't been formally identified and inquiries were said to be continuing. However, police did say they were liaising with Jamie's family. Today, Jamie's mother, Valerie Nelson, has taken to Facebook, seemingly confirming that it was her son who was recovered. She's thanked the public, both on the island and further afield, for their love, help and outstanding support over the last fortnight. She's also praised the police for their support, describing officers working at Ramsey Police Station in particular as remarkable, and paid tribute to the lifeboat, dog search teams, fire and rescue service and civil defence. I would like to thank the general public for taking this tragic event into their hearts and sending us messages of love and support, she wrote. This island community stands together in such times and it's overwhelming. Describing her son as kind and generous, she added, I wish him well on his continued spiritual journey and am comforted in the fact that we will meet again in another life.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
The relationship and sex education curriculum won't be reintroduced to the Isle of Man until it's been adapted for Manx children. So says Education, Sport and Culture Minister Julie Edge, MHK, who was on Man in Line today.
It was introduced in 2020 as an advisory curriculum, and I think that word advisory is perhaps where it shouldn't have been. I think it should have been put out to the schools in the right appropriate format and manner. However, the report is out, but the most important thing was communication with parents so that they're aware. I've had as many parents contact me saying, when will it be back? Because they're quite content for school to inform at the appropriate age. And I think that's the key. It's making sure that that curriculum is delivered at the appropriate time, and it's got to be for the age of the student in front of you. However, the other side of the report was that we needed to have dedicated professionals who are comfortable delivering this curriculum, and they can also be aware then of the students in front of them, and they can support the students through the learning that many parents say is really essential. And certainly on the island we've seen how essential it is with a few cases recently that have been in the news. This curriculum won't come back unless we look at it from the Isle of Man point of view, and it will come back as a Manx version of the curriculum, and it will fit with the requirements that we have in the Isle of Man. And we've got to work with our professionals, and it's my job to make sure that the officers in the department are doing that work with the professional people to bring back the right curriculum that's appropriate and it's well communicated with our parents. But parents have always been able to opt out of areas within school curriculum anyway. So again, that's just something is perhaps parents were not aware, and it's down to that big communication piece to make sure they're aware where they can access the curriculum and they know the content.
FC Isle of Man midfielder Dean Pinnington hopes ending the club's 7-match run without a win will be a morale boost for the squad. Saturday's 1-0 win over Wythenshawe leaves the Ravens 13th in the table, and Dean told Manx Radio the players believe they can beat anybody in the league.
It's very, very good for everyone and the morale in the squad, because getting beat every week is hard, like it just is. You start expecting it, and that's what was starting to happen with everyone. And now after today, it'll kick us all up, and we'll have like that fight in us. You know what? We are better than all these teams in this league. We are good enough. We can go and win any game. So hopefully it carries on. We can do it.
How have you come through that, I suppose, as a team? You've had that frustration of certain things have gone right, but you're not been coming away with the results. You know, how's everyone been feeling about that? It's
very frustrating. Especially we started very, very well at the start of the season, and I think everyone got a bit ahead of themselves. I think we started thinking that we're not going to get beat here, but then things just didn't go our way, and every game that we were getting beaten, we were still in the game. We felt as though we could have got something from it. So yeah, it's hard to take, but it's just about the belief, and I think all the players have the belief. I think the manager has the belief, and hopefully the fans have the belief, so hopefully we can kick on and keep on doing it.
Just one last question, then we'll let you go. It's the first time that we've actually spoken face-to-face since you arrived at FC Isle of Man, and obviously you've been involved in different competitions and different whatever else over the last couple of years in football in general. How have you settled into this, into something different competition, different group of players? How have you found it?
I've honestly loved it. It's been class. Playing with a bunch of lads that are all absolute credit to themselves. Every single one of the lads are top lads. And playing in front of everyone from the Isle of Man, it's like such a homegrown club, and everyone's there and everyone's supporting its quality, and playing every week, it's not like anything I've ever done before.
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Mothership Ben McCree left Heysham at 26 minutes past 2. She'll be, in fact, I've just spotted the Ben McCree out of the window. She's on the outer fringes of Douglas Bay at the moment, so give her 15-20 minutes, she'll be on the link span. Departing this evening at 8:15, Manxman heads to Heysham, arriving there around midnight. 2:15 departure for Manxman from Lancashire, back to Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning. The Fastcraft Manannan left Douglas at 14 minutes to 2. She's in Liverpool now on the link span, departing this evening at 7:15, back to Douglas at 11:15. Tomorrow morning's departure, Ben McCree heads to Heysham at 8:45.
Follow the Steam Packet on Twitter for the latest sailing information.
18 minutes before 6 on Update, live from Douglas in the Isle of Man. This is Manx Radio. A campaign is calling for the Manx government to do more to tackle disruptions at the Isle of Man's commercial airport, Ronaldsway. Tony Quine has been gathering figures on the reliability of the Isle of Man to Gatwick service. Government has been contacted for a response. Here's Tony Quine.
I submitted a Freedom of Information request in early August, asking for some information about performance on that flight, punctuality performance on that flight in June and July. I had a pretty good idea myself that it wouldn't look very clever. The airport have declined to give that information to me. They've said that they don't keep it, which I find extraordinary, that they don't have information on punctuality. In the same response, they've said that they meet with EasyJet every week to discuss performance. And I don't understand how they can have a meaningful conversation if they don't know what the punctuality figures look like. They did point me to one or two other third-party websites, the Civil Aviation Authority and some aviation tracking websites. And by having a look at those, I was able to work out some numbers of my own. Basically, the evening Gatwick flight arrives back in Gatwick on schedule about 12% of the time. That's a little bit more than once a fortnight. It's cancelled about 12% of the time, and the remaining 75% of the time, it's late. And it's often very late. It's often getting back to Gatwick between 11:30 and midnight, which time surface transport is finished. Trains are few and far between. You can't hire a car. So unless you're going to one of the hotels that's in walking distance, you've pretty much got very few options at that time of night. And, really, this is just not a very satisfactory situation. This is more than just local people, having to make perhaps more complicated plans for their holiday than would otherwise be the case. This is perhaps something that, the government really need to get a grip of, because connectivity and communication with the UK, is a really, really key thing if we are going to grow the business footprint footprint of the Isle of Man, and these 15,000 new residents are going to come and live here and find it's an agreeable place to live.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 5:45, defence contractor BAE Systems has been awarded £3.95 billion of funding from the UK Ministry of Defence for the next phase of the UK's next-generation nuclear-powered attack submarine programme known as SSN AUKUS. It follows the funding from the AUKUS announcement in March by the leaders of Australia, the UK and the United States. Get it? AUKUS. This will eventually see Australia and the UK operate SSN AUKUS submarines. BAE said that having started early design work in 2021, the funding will cover development work to 2028, enabling it to move into the detailed design phase of the programme and begin to procure long lead items. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. The new iPhone 15 has been too hot to handle. Literally too hot to handle. The iPhone 15's got an issue with overheating, and Apple's blamed a bug in its operating system and updates to apps like Instagram. Since the latest model of the smartphone went on sale in September, some users have complained the devices are getting too hot to touch. Apple fessed up, saying there was a bug when updating iOS 17 on the phone, but claimed that changes to third-party apps are causing them to overload the system. iPhone users have come to expect their device becoming hotter during the initial setup or when they're being backed up due to the amount of processing power being used and the handset working overtime. But it's been worse with the iPhone 15.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European stocks closed lower. The dollar index climbed and oil paired gains. Gold prices extended declines. The numbers now from Ramsey Crookall, reporting at the close in London. The FTSE 100 down 1 3/10% at 7,510. The DAX in Frankfurt closed down 0.9% at 15,247. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial fractionally down 0.06%, 33,486. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index up almost a percentage point at 13,344. The S&P 500 is up almost 0.2% at 4,295 in the Midwest. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling is trading at $1 21.2 cents, €1 15.4 cents, and 23 South African rand 26.3 cents. In commodities, gold's down 0.9% at $1,831 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude down just over 1% at $91.11.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future. For a house, well, the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
The Manx government's decision to spend funds approved for work on the horse tramway elsewhere is a slap in the face to Tynwald, according to the chair of the PAC, the Public Accounts Committee. The PAC's also raised concerns over government's decision to stop publishing its unaudited accounts. Joan Watterson, the Speaker of the House of Keys, chair of the Public Accounts Committee.
The committee is very firmly of the view that there should be a document produced, even if that's the output of the accounting system at the end of the year, just so we can get a feel for changes, where the money's going, and just some of that sort of basic accountancy, sniffing around to see what's going well and what's not going not so well, so we can continue our task of trying to save the taxpayer some money. Obviously, the audited accounts are the main event, and they're the things you can put a real reliance on, and they include all sorts of other things that aren't in that sort of granular detail. But actually, you do get an awful lot from those unaudited accounts, those balances of how much are being spent at, say, different divisions of government.
Now, the other recommendation comes off the back of government's decision to de-scope the Douglas horse trams, and this is essentially calling for any sort of situation like this for Tynwald to have a vote on it rather than for it to be a Comin decision. In the reports, it describes the fact that this decision was taken by Comin as reflecting poorly on the department and Comin. Why is that?
Well, I think if the government comes to Tynwald to ask for a sum of money for a project and that money is voted, and especially with the controversy that there was around the horse trams and the special vote that was had for the extra money for that, when government then goes and decides that that money should be spent somewhere else and not on what Tynwald has actually voted for it to go on, that does reflect poorly on government. That's not how good financial management should work and how good governance should work. If government needed more money to complete the project, again, that's something it should have to come back to Tynwald for. But equally, if it's going to de-scope things and just decide that it doesn't suit anymore to not do something that Tynwald has asked it to do, again, I think Tynwald should have an active say in that. If government can just ignore what Tynwald wants and spend the money the way it wants to do it, that really does undermine the democratic legitimacy of what it's trying to do, and it's a bit of a slap in the face to Tynwald.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio Sport.
Faster my Rhiannon Evans.
Faster my good evening. Well, Isle of Man Netball is set to host a brand new tournament next month. The very first invitational Inter-Island Games is being held at the NSC from the 6th till the 11th of November. It'll see the Isle of Man take on Jersey, Guernsey, Orkney, Innismon and Shetland. Not only that, the Isle of Man men's netball team will go head-to-head with Guernsey men in 2 showcase matches. Volunteers are being looked for to help the event run smoothly. Details on how to get involved can be found at manxradio.com on our sports hub. Elsewhere, and the Isle of Man's journey in the World Darts Federation World Cup came to a close last night. In the team event, the men started with a 9-1 defeat to Norway before running Hungary very close in a 9-6 loss in the group stage. The ladies were also drawn in a tough group, and after a slow start against Latvia, they fought back before going down 9-6. Successive heavy defeats against top-class opponents Wales and Japan did dent confidence, but the Manx ladies came out strong against host Denmark, going up 4-1 before the Danes found their feet and ground out a 9-5 victory. In the pairs event, Sophie Hicklin and Jess Corlett made it to the last 32 in the ladies category, while Aaron Bradley and Adi Hogg made the last 64 in the men's. The Manx players had some really tough draws in the singles event, with Wayne Harrison, the best performer, getting to the last 64. And shots, well, arrows were fired in the Isle of Man Field Archery Championships at the weekend. Willa Sherricks took gold in the beginners competition with a score of 258. Silver went to Will Courtine on 200 and Julie Courtine took bronze with a score of 190. The star of the day was Bradley Malone, who scored a magnificent 278 points and took first place in the junior handicap trophy. And it was Leslie Slight that took the senior trophy, with second place going to Willa Sherricks, closely followed by Roger Slight in third.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the 10-6 Loganair from Manchester came in 5 minutes early. Next, it's the 10-8 Loganair from London City showing on time. The 8 returning patient transfer Loganair from Liverpool on time. And the 25-9 EasyJet inbound from Gatwick is showing on time. Outbound, the 6:25 Loganair to Liverpool patient transfer is on time, and then the 9:05 EasyJet back to London Gatwick showing on time. In Colby, temporary lights on the main road near Colby Glen for patching work, and there are also lights at the bottom end of Glen Road, Colby, for drainage work. In Port St Mary, temporary lights at the junction of Queen's Road and Park Road for gas main work. Temporary lights true in Port St Mary at the bottom end of Howe Road near the Truggan Road for substation work. Newcastle Town Road is closed between Spring Valley Roundabout and the bottom of Richmond Hill in Douglas for resurfacing. The junction at the bottom end of Richmond Hill has been reopened, the traffic diverted along the Energy from Waste Plant Access Road and the top of Quegg Hill. Hillside Avenue is closed through to Circular Road in Douglas for adjacent office window replacement through till June of next year. Lot of windows. Temporary lights on Glencrutchery Road at the roundabout with Victoria Road for resurfacing. Thus, the traffic heading along Glencrutchery Road won't be able to turn down Victoria Road. There's a temporary one-way system at the top of Victoria Road, meaning traffic can only travel northbound. The best of luck.
H&HMotorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646.
Past and thank you for joining Manx Radio's update, whether you're listening live right now from Douglas Head or on a podcast anywhere around the world. The Council of Ministers appears to be in denial that homelessness exists in the Isle of Man in 2023, according to Arbury Castle Town and Malo's Jason Morehouse. He's tabled a motion on the subject for this month's Tynwald. Since the Isle of Man's only night shelter closed over a year ago, Mr Morehouse says it's frustrating no replacement's been found.
It's 12 months since Grai closed its doors, and since that time I've been asking the Chief Minister and various other ministers for updates, and we've just made no progress at all. I've spoken to the civil servants and they've got material ready to go to MHKs, to other people, and there's some block. There was a written question put down this month, and it made reference to an answer that was given in July where the Chief Minister actually said there'd be a presentation to Tynwald members in August and the material will be provided. So I thought, oh gosh, I missed something. So I went back to them and said, where's the material? And yeah, there's still nothing. We've still to have meetings, and there's the hope that something will come in October. I presume that before my motion that something will come out, but it's just real frustration that we've got a system at the moment that isn't fit for purpose, that people who have nowhere to actually go have to ring a phone number and then a decision is made on whether or not help can be provided. So it's not a walk-in facility, it's not a facility where people can get guaranteed support. It is as and when we can help you. I think as we kind of say, oh, we've now managed 12 months without Grai, is that an issue? I think there are things like that people are starting to think and wonder about, but we only need to look back at the figures, the data that happened when Grai was open, the number of people that are still requiring assistance, and there are numbers of them. And you know, you can look at the papers, you can hear the news broadcasts about people who are facing prison and they're classified as homeless, and you know, it's a word that's out there, people are aware of it, but the council ministers seem to have this kind of denial that it's actually happening in 2023 in the Isle of Man.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Tessa Hawley, producer Amy Griffiths. After the news at 6, Phil Gawns along with Agenda, Chris Kinley and the greatest hits, Ian Cottier's Time for Brass, Dave Moore on The Late Show. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Let me just tell you, 12 weeks today, it'll be Christmas Day.
WINT